Hello and welcome to Processes of the Month with me, Rory Canavan. And today we're going to be looking at the orphan data process. And if you're used to the presentations by now, you'll know we've got a set agenda. And one of the first things we'll be looking to do is to capture the primary and secondary objectives of the orphan data process. Then we're going to take a slight diversion and look at a concept called the 1, 2, 3 of BAU SAM. And then we'll offer a process run through. Next, we'll look at potential banana skins that this process will actually experience or could actually experience in an organization. We have a doffing of caps to our sponsors, and then we're going to be looking at what's coming up next month. So we have a concept here called the 1, 2, 3 of BAU SAM, and this is something that I want to highlight to people who think that merely by installing software asset management suites, the problem is going away. It most definitely is not. So what we have here is our three-circle Venn diagram, and at the top here you'll see this is labeled application data, typically within the SAM suite. So these are your recognition files. Next we have our proof of entitlement, and these are our contracts, our licenses, essentially whatever evidence a software vendor says we need to have in place to justify our software installs. And then we have our inventory data itself, so this represents our software installations. Now, if you're ahead of the curve or used to Venn diagrams, you'll know that the sweet spot is where you want your software titles to be. So it's installed, it's paid for, and it's recognized. But as we all know, life isn't like that. And so we've got some matching that we need to take care of. This section here represents unlicensed software. So this is the stuff that's installed and is recognized, but has no proof of entitlement to back it up. This is what we call in the trade unlicensed software, and you absolutely need to pounce on this. This should be a top priority for you. Next off, we have software that is purchased and is recognized, but for whatever reason is not installed. And this is, again, to use the parlance, this is your license pool. As a SAM manager, you should be offering guidance and support to people who are overseeing the software request process or the procurement process, not to let this get too large, because as a SAM manager, it's not you who's overseeing or standing over necessarily the purchasers that bring software into the organization. Finally, we have section 3, and this is, if you like, a black hole in terms of software asset management. So it might be that you've purchased something and you have it installed, but for whatever reason, the SAM suite is incapable of recognizing it. And if that's the case, it makes it far harder to determine whether you are license compliant or not then, because if the recognition file isn't there, you're falling back on one install equals one license. And that may not be the metric. It may not be the means by which the software is actually metered or licensed in the first place. So what we have then is the orphan data process. So hopefully you'll get the idea that we have these pockets of data 1, 2, and 3, and what we're looking to do is bring them together so that they are no longer stragglers within your SAM suite. So the primary objective then is to ensure entitlement data, inventory data, and recognition data are in sync within the SAM suite. We don't actually have a secondary objective because that is the sole directive or sole objective, excuse me, of the orphan data process. So what we do then is we have here the inventory import process and also the entitlement import process. Now, one thing I may not have mentioned in the past, if you see a star here, as you can for these two processes, this means that we haven't actually modeled them within the process kit. The process kit is agnostic, it's tool neutral, so what you'll tend to find is your SAM suites will have various means and methods by which they import data, and we can't model everyone reasonably. So certain processes you'll have to sort of consult your technical guidance or consultancy to get those documented. But we have our data coming into our SAM suite, and well, we need to analyze that data. So we set about then trying to identify those bits of software that fall into section 1, section 2, or section 3, as highlighted in the Venn diagram we touched on previously. So it could be that we've got a little V here to signify that we could be going down any one of these 3 routes here. But we have unlicensed but recognized software found. So that is your number 1 priority as a SAM manager. You should be making sure that your software, wherever possible, is licensed and licensed correctly at that. This is section 2, unused entitlement found. So this is your license pool. What are we doing about this? And this is licensed but unrecognized software found. So this is how do we actually get the SAM suite then to recognize that software and be able to produce accurate compliance and metric reports there. So here's a busy page. So we've come off the top here. This is the unlicensed software found. So we instantly generate a license compliance report. So we absolutely flush out, we make sure that we've got as much of our entitlement lined up for that software as physically possible, so we can spot the deltas wherever possible. It presents us with a series of installations, or sorry, of options, excuse me, what we can do. We can either set about actually making the decision that the software is installed, but we need to go buy the license, so off we go to the procurement process, or we find that actually we don't need the software and for whatever reason that it should be uninstalled. So at that point we make a decision to move on to the software removal process. Or it could be that actually we do have the entitlement, but it's just not aligned to the installation. So at that point we can go down this decision route here and go to a decision or an activity to say that we should actually be making that alignment there. If we look at our second stream then, so this would have been the software that was purchased and recognized but not installed, i.e. our license pool. We generate our license pool report so we can drill down on that to a greater degree of accuracy. And again, it could be that we actually, rather like the last example here with the unlicensed software, find that we have entitlement that we should be applying to unlicensed software. So we take a step up here and we follow this activity path to page C. If we find that actually it is spare, it is reserve, then we need to make sure that we update procurement of purchasing limits, because it could be we've reached that point where we have, if you like, we have enough fat in the organization. We recognize that the software we have meets the expected peaks of demand for those given titles. Finally, we look at the third stream of activity down here. So this was the software that was purchased and installed but not recognized by the SAM suite. So again, we look to drill down on this and generate an unknown software report here, and then move forward on to page C. So this was the activity to take care of aligning excess entitlement to excess installs wherever possible. So for whatever reason that may not have happened, it could be a change in SKU as an example, any number of reasons as to why that software may not have actually been aligned. Or if we go down to page C, when this is where the product requires verification, we can decide, well, has that software somehow snuck onto the network and it's not part of the supported software catalog. So we can send it for further analysis and investigation to the software test process then at that point. If the product fails that verification, then we can set about actually removing it then at that point. If a business decision is taken that we do actually need it, then we update the SAM suite, and also we should think too about updating the supported software catalog also. Now, on this point around 1.60, please be careful of looking at commercial off-the-shelf software and thinking we'll get ahead of the SAM suite vendor and create our own recognition file. If you know that your recognition files are updated on a fairly regular basis from the SAM suite vendor, dwell a pause of 2 marching paces and let them update the files for you. You're going to get into an area of conflicts potentially if you create your own recognition files and then a week later the company standard or the SAM suite standard comes in and tries to present another recognition file for the same software. Potential banana skins then. Inventory data is left unmatched. Absolutely. You want to know what you have on your estate. And again, you're going to find all those little .com, .sys, .dll files. There has to be a point at which you draw the line in the real world and actually say, 200 installs or less, when really not going to be bothering with this, as an example, in an enterprise organization. So pick your battles. Entitlement data is left unmatched is another potential banana skin, because as a SAM manager, you're supposed to be making sure that actually the purchases that you make are aligned to the installations. You get the best value out of those contracts and licenses that have actually been purchased. Finally, of course, recognition data is left unmatched. If nothing is done between those installations that are purchased and installed, you're not in a reasonable position to generate a fair compliance position to say whether that's yes, it's good to go, or no, actually we need to dig deeper and find out whether we need to perhaps make further purchases or look at uninstallations. At this point, I'd like to offer much love to our sponsors, to Aspera, Flexair and Snow. Thank you very much, chaps. Also to softwaremanagement.org, ITAM Intelligence and Medora Consulting, all good chaps in the world of SAM. And also to Software Advocates Licensing School and Palisade Compliance as well. And as ever, bringing up the rear, Chris Goff at Derived Logic and his chaps. Thank you too. If you like what you've seen and you'd wish to invest in a process kit, which I strongly recommend you do, please go to the link below and you will be able to purchase one of several options there to help you implement best practice processes. Coming up next month, this will be our final, at least for now anyway. I say final now, it could be that we decide to roll on with these depending on feedback. We look at the Bermuda Triangle of SAM, which isn't a process in and of itself necessarily, but it's, I think, a point of interest about the interaction and communication between effective processes. Contact details, please reach out to me if you've got any questions over what you've seen or you'd like to chat further. My email address is rory.canavan@samcharter.com. I can be followed on Twitter at StoryByRory. And equally, please feel free to reach out to me at LinkedIn. I'm a very strong advocate of that for the business community there. So that just leaves me to wrap up and say thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing and hearing from you next month. Take care now.